بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي هدانا إلى الصراط المستقيم والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الأمين وعلى آله الطاهرين وأصحابه الكاملين أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وكان حقا علينا نصر المؤمنين وقال تعالى قل إنما أدعو ربي ولا أشرك به أحدا صدق الله العظيم وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إن أشد الناس بلاء الأنبياء ثم الأمثل فالأمثل. Alhamdulillah, it is an honor and a blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He has gathered us today in His house to learn from His deen and to learn what the Quran and Hadith says about, we are all aware of the topic, black magic, evil eye, its relation to mental health. As you are all aware, the topic can sometimes be a controversial one. There's a lot of news, information out there, sometimes which is authentic, unauthentic, sometimes it's said by people who aren't even Muslims. So it's very important that we understand that in Islam, with regards to this topic, there are many things mentioned in Quran and Hadith, but not everything. There are certain things which aren't mentioned, and there are certain grey areas, and there's a lot of things which we learn from experience. And sometimes, even though the source may be from Quran and Hadith, we learn things from experience which sometimes can be permissible. So, throughout the program, inshallah, the intention is to highlight these things. Things which are black and white, which are authentic, the grey areas, and what we know from experience. And inshallah, the session will be split up into 3 parts. The first will be evil eye, and then about black magic and jadoo, and the third about the treatment, the healing process, the cure, Ruqyah, Taweed, etc. One thing we need to understand before we delve into these topics is that a common concept when it comes to these topics is that people make the issue bigger than it already is. People tend to exaggerate and exasperate these topics, whereas that's not the case. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. Allah only burdens a soul that much which He can take. And you've all heard this verse time and time again. We've all heard many times. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you can't take it, Allah won't put you through it. Which sometimes as Muslims we think, well, I remember that time in my life, I remember that year, it was so difficult. It was so difficult. But Allah only made it that difficult because He knew you could only take that much. He didn't break your back. So it's very important to understand this, because throughout the program, one thing I will be doing is underlining principles. Yeah, Islam is based on a lot of principles, and this is one of those principles. If you understand this, maybe this is half your problem. Because you think my life is so hard, Allah's put so much burden on me, I have so much stress and tension and other issues, and I can't take it. Yeah, we all think that, and there's no harm in thinking that, but we shouldn't believe it. Yeah, that Allah would be that cruel to us. Allah, our Lord, is loving, merciful and kind. And even in the tests He gives us, whether it's black magic, jadoo, nazar, mental health, divorce, depression, your business falls down, that is your test. And that brings us on to the first hadith. With Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas radiyallahu anhu, he asked the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, Ya Rasulullah, from all the people, i.e. the Muslims, who are tested the most? Yeah, from everybody, who's tested the most? Just think about this question for 1 minute. I don't want to play down or water down anybody's illness, anybody's issues they have, anybody's struggles. I don't want to say what I've been through is more than what you've been through. You've been through nothing, mate. And what you've been through is nothing compared to what he's been through. Yeah, we should never do that. Why? Because of the verse that I just mentioned. Allah only burdens a soul that much which He can take. So it's not fair for me to say to this brother, what I've been through in life is far more worse than what you've been through. Because everybody's capability is different. And Allah gives problems, tests and trials and tribulations according to a person's capability. So this question was asked to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which of the people go through the most? Who's had it the toughest? Who's had a hard time? Who gets tested the most? And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the Anbiya, the prophets. So let's stop here for a second. Even the prophets didn't have it easy. If anybody thinks, well, they're messengers, they had high iman, they were guaranteed Jannah, Allah's not going to throw his prophet into hellfire, they had it easy. No. This hadith proves that the people who were tested and went through most trials and afflictions were the prophets. And then the Prophet ﷺ said, the ones closest to them, and then the ones closest to them. The hadith I mentioned at the start in the khutbah, إِنَّ أَشَدَّ النَّاسِ بَلَاءً الْأَنْبِيَاءُ ثُمَّ الْأَمْثَلُ فَالْأَمْثَلُ. And then Rasulullah ﷺ mentioned that a person is tested according to his commitment to the deen. The more higher his iman is, the higher the test and the trial. And if somebody doesn't have that high iman, then his test will be according to the commitment he has to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah? It's often we hear, isn't it? If you want to know how close you are to Allah, then ask yourself that. How much do you do for Allah? How much Quran do you pray? How much adhkar do you read? How often do you come to the masjid? For sisters, how often do you wear the hijab? How often do you pray salah? How often do you remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And that will tell you your level of iman and your standing with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's very, very important we understand this. That why tests and trials and tribulations come in the first place. Because before even delving into the topics, if we haven't understood that, then a person all his life will complain and complain and complain. Because he never understood why the test came in the first place. Whether it's natural disasters, natural catastrophes, earthquakes, floods, the reason is the same. Allah is testing their iman. And sometimes, if they're not close to Allah, or they don't believe in Allah, Allah sends punishments. But that's not for you and I to decide who is getting punished. Say, you know what, you've got a bad life because Allah punishes you. And you're a good person. You're a good brother, so Allah's testing you. That's not for you and I to decide. That's for Allah to decide. But one thing we do learn from scholars and the ulama is if you want to know what you're going through is a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then ask yourself, did it bring you closer to Allah? That's a sign. Did it bring you closer to the deen? Are you praying salah more punctually, more frequently? Are you coming to the masjid more regularly? Are you doing more azkar? Is your iman increasing? Are you controlling your tongue, staying away from haram? Everything matters. It's not just the masjid. You can't come to the masjid and then still be committing haram day in, day out. So this is a sign that it's a test for you and you're passing that test. But we can say, if a person is afflicted with a trial or a test and it brings him away from the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then most likely that would have been a punishment. And that wasn't a test, or he failed the test. So either way, it's become a punishment because he's become away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's very important we understand these ground principles. And we understand what the Quran and Hadith says about certain things, rather than uttering from our mouths sometimes certain things which can take our iman away. Na'udhu billah, that Allah is cruel. Why does Allah do all this to me? If Allah is Rahman and Rahim, then why does He send natural disasters? It's because we've not understood why Allah sends it. Knowledge is very important. And that's the purpose of today's talk, for you to go away with knowledge. I don't guarantee anybody to be healed or cured after this program. I don't promise anybody that your jinn or jadoo will be taken out after this program. It's just for knowledge purposes. Yeah? It reminds me of the quote of Shaykh Ahmad Didat, rahmatullah alayh. What did he used to say? The greatest enemy of Islam. Who is the greatest enemy of Islam? Who? Shaitan. The ignorant Muslim, mashallah. Okay. That's what Shaykh Ahmad Didat said. Shaitan is there, but the greatest enemy of Islam isn't what you and I think. It's the ignorant Muslim. Why? Because he's the one with the beard. She's the one with the hijab. But their actions and words are contrary to Islam. So when non-Muslims look at them, say, he's a Muslim, but he's a liar. He's a Muslim, he's a fraud. He is a Muslim, he deceived me. And they think that is Islam. Because the beard and the jubbah and the hijab shows that we're Muslims. So that is the biggest enemy of Islam. And that's a rule not just for black magic, mental health or evil eye, that's a rule altogether. In everything we should learn what we're talking about. So moving on, many of us will think that life as a Muslim, we thought it's going to be easy. We have Allah on our side, we have Iman on our side, we have Quran on our side. And we would love if there was no hatred, no enmity, no jealousy, no backbiting. And we could live nice and easy life. Do you agree, brothers? Yeah, who would live or love that sort of life? We all would. But unfortunately, that life is only promised to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Jannah, inshallah. The hadith of the Prophet ﷺ mentions ad-dunya sijnul mu'min, that this world is a prison for the believer. This world is a prison for the believer. Wa jannatul kafir, and it's paradise for the non-Muslims. So again, if you take this as a principle, that sometimes what I'm afflicted with, some problems I have, a bit of stress, etc., then we understand that ad-dunya sijnul mu'min, that this world wasn't for your happiness anyway. It's a prison. And what happens in prison? I was going to ask, anybody been? But what happens in prison? I've not been, alhamdulillah, but we know what happens is you're restricted. You're confined. You have to sleep at this time. You only get this food. You can't have your wife's or mum's biryani in prison. You can't go out when you want to. Yeah? There are restrictions of halal and haram in this world. Likewise. So, dunya sijnul mu'min. Remember that. Wa jannatul kafir. How often do we hear Muslims say, well, you know what, Maulana, these non-Muslims, they're loving life. They've got everything. And Allah doesn't help us. Yeah? It's something which even the Prophet says, وَزُلْزِلُوا حَتَّى يَقُولَ الرَّسُولُ وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مَعَهُ مَتَى نَصْرُ اللَّهِ. When will the help of Allah come? Yeah, and Allah answered, أَلَا إِنَّ نَصْرَ اللَّهِ قَرِيبٌ. The help of Allah is near. So many times you'll think this, that I'm a good person, I'm a good brother, I'm a good sister, I'm practicing. I am practicing. Then why doesn't the help of Allah come? It's back to the trial and test. So, one of the things with these topics of illnesses, sicknesses, diseases, black magic, Nazar, is people want a quick fix. People want me to wave my wand and say, you're right as rain. Go. Yeah? Everybody wants that because we're impatient. خُلِقَ الْإِنسَانُ عَجُولًا. Yeah? Allah says that mankind are very haste. In everything, not just in illness and curing and tests, in everything. And we see as zamana is going by and by things are becoming faster and quicker. What we could do in hours, in previous times, we can do in minutes now. Yeah, in the time of the Prophet ﷺ and Sahaba, they traveled on camels and donkeys. Now we travel on planes and trains. Zamana has become quicker, hasn't it? So people are losing their yaqeen and tawakkul on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when it comes to the cure, the treatment, the quick fix, ask yourself how much you rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How much tawakkul you have. How much tawheed you have. And these are kind of umbrella topics, which I'm not going to elaborate much on because we won't have time. But it needs to be mentioned. Because again, it's a principle that if you have tawakkul, reliance on Allah, and if you have tawheed, the oneness of Allah, then things will be much easier for you. I didn't say, and a problem will never afflict you. I didn't say you will never fall ill. I didn't say no harm will ever befall you. I said things will be much easier for you because your understanding and reliance is up there. When your reliance isn't up there, it's on the doctor, it's on the pharmacist, it's on the Raqi, or the Tawiz Mulsab, or the Amaliyat. Then why isn't this Maulana getting me better? Why? Who knows? Why can't Maulana Sahib get people better? Nobody knows. Why? This was the first thing I wanted to address. Anybody?
It's not in his hands.
MashaAllah. It's not in his hands. It's not in the doctor's hands. Yeah? I'll give you a simple example. In this country, mashallah, obviously We do refer to medical help, we do refer to the NHS hospitals, and there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah? Nobody's saying don't go to the doctors. But as Muslims, do we solely rely on the doctor? Do we solely rely on the pharmacist? Do we solely rely on the surgeon who does our operation for it to be successful? Two people take a paracetamol. Person X and person Y. Person X got cured and person Y didn't. Yeah? They both had a headache. Both took the same paracetamol at the same time for the same headache, let's just say, similar pain. Why did person X get cured and person Y didn't? Anybody? Why? What would you say as a Muslim if somebody asked you? Somebody said it? Yaqeen, mashallah. Because of his yaqeen. Person X had his yaqeen on Allah, but he still used the means and said, Allah will cure me. Person Y said, the paracetamol will cure me. Hence he didn't get cured. Because of the lack of yaqeen. Again, then let that be a principle for many of the issues you face in life. Whether it's jinn, jadoo, nazar, mental health, illnesses, you can't get married, you can't get pregnant, fertility issues. Let that be the reason. Because you think the doctor cures, the tablet cures. We need to inculcate in our minds that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who removes all difficulties. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who gives cure. It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who will bless you with children. Not Pir Sahib, not Maulana Sahib, and not the worshipping at the grave. As many people do. And which needs to be addressed. Which needs to be addressed. If it's not addressed from here, where will it be addressed? On Facebook? Yeah, the majority of people who talk on Facebook about Islam don't even have information of Islam. Not authentic anyway. Yeah, the majority of people. Because we've seen their debates and they're absolutely pointless, baseless. For them people, I remind them of the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When you talk about Islam, when you talk about Quran and hadith says this. Hadith says this. Which institute did you study in, brother? The Institute of Copy and Paste. The Institute of Copy and Paste. Paste the hadith, paste the hadith, paste the hadith. And we think we know about Islam. For them people who delve and talk about topics, even the one I'm talking about today, who don't know what they're talking about, need to remember the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and don't take it as a light warning. Man kadhaba alayya muta'ammidan falyatabawwa maq'adahu minan nar. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned, whoever lies upon me deliberately, muta'ammidan, let him make his place in the hereafter from the hellfire. Is that a light statement? That's for all of us, myself included. When I talk about a topic which I don't know the depth of, then I need to remember this hadith. Because when you talk about Quran and Islam and hadith and you don't know what you're talking about, this hadith applies to you. Who told you to open your mouth? Yeah, these keyboard warriors, these armchair critics. That's what they are doing. They just sit there and they've got too much time on their hands. And many times they argue with ulama, muftis and scholars and sheikhs. And this guy doesn't even know how to read Surah Fatiha. So it's very important we have the correct information. And like I mentioned, the tawakkul and the tawheed. Many of you sitting here will laugh at me and say, Maulana's talking about basic things which I learned when I was 5. La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. I didn't come here to learn about that. You didn't. And the sisters didn't come to learn about that. You prayed La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah when you were 5. But life is a learning journey. It's a learning curve. Your whole life you will learn more and more about La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. What do I mean? Not the translation. You learned the translation when you were 5, when you were a baby, when you were a child. But your life is not the same now as it is when you were 5 years old. Agreed? Yeah? Your belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah? Your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, your iman and your yaqeen. So we say La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, but sometimes we need to learn the meaning of it. That when life comes at a crossroad, when life comes to a dead end and you can't see the light, it's a dead end, there's no hope. What do? We do what Musa alayhi salam did. What did Musa alayhi salam do at the Red Sea? Huh? What did he do? say life's over for me, Allah's let me down, na'udhu billah? Did he give up? He put his staff in the sea. He beseeched Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He remembered Allah, that Allah will never forsake me, and Allah made a path. You think if you don't beseech Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you beseech Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you rely on Him, Allah will not create paths for you? Like Allah did for Musa alayhi salam. What did Ibrahim alayhi salam do in the fire? Yeah? These are examples which we hear time and time again, but they need to sink in, they need to digest, because this is our deen. And the reason, one of the greatest reasons the Muslim Ummah we are facing, the problems we face, is because a lack of yaqeen and tawakkul. The Musa alayhi salam yaqeen is gone. Maulana, that was thousands of years ago. What are you talking about? Get with the times. Get with the times. Ibrahim alayhi salam, when he was thrown in the fire, what did he do? He prayed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah saved him, made that fire into a garden. A garden for him. In the same way, we need to trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we need to have the tawheed, the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which doesn't just mean we say Allah is one, Allah is one, Allah is one. Every single one of us sitting here knows Allah is one. And those listening at home know Allah is one. The question is, do you believe it? Or do you seek help from other deities in the form of sheikhs and peers and graves? Then Allah is not one for you, is He? Allah is not one for you. These people, according to you, also help Allah, and Allah helps them. So that belief is incorrect. And the first most important thing is the belief of a Muslim has to be correct. There's an ayat in the Quran, Wallahu ala kulli shay'in qadir. Every single one of you has heard this verse numerous times. What does it mean? Anybody? Wallahu ala kulli shay'in qadir means Allah has control over all things. Allah has control over all things, or another translation is Allah is competent over all things. He can do everything. Kun fayakun. And we need to believe this. And this has levels. The first and foremost is the 100% reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That Allah does everything, and you will not ask for help from anybody. From your friends, from your family, from your wife, from anybody. You completely rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is a stage which very few are on, which the Anbiya were on, and the pious predecessors were on. The second stage is you do rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but you also use the means. You take the paracetamol, but you know Allah cures, not the paracetamol. You go to the doctors, but you know Allah cures, not the doctor. That's the second stage. And the third stage is that you don't completely rely on the means. You've forgotten about Allah. You've forgotten that He's Shafi. You've forgotten that He's the one, the Razzaq, that feeds you. You've forgotten that He's the one that helps you. And you completely rely on the means. That if I have a job, money will come. You forgot that Allah sustains. If I have food, Allah, then I'll fill my belly. You forgot Allah sustains. If I have medicine only, then I'll get cured. Yeah? We live in this country, and that's what sometimes we rely totally on, that only medicine can cure us. But if you read the books of Imam Ibn al-Qayyim rahmatullah alayhi, many times he said, pray Surah Fatiha, cup your hands, blow over yourself, and you'll get cured. And there are people who've done this. Even in this day and age, there are people who've done this. So don't tell me, get with the times, Maulana. Things have changed. Moving on to the first topic of evil eye, which is also known in Urdu, Gujarati, many languages as Nazar. Yeah, we famously know as Nazar. So, does evil eye exist? If it does, we need proof. And if it doesn't, those who claim that also need proof. Yeah, back to the debaters, which I mentioned. The Facebookers, the Instagrammers, who talk about things but they don't have no proof. Always ask for proof. Our deen is based on proof. Yeah? There's proof for everything. That's what Quran and Hadith is there for. If you don't know, even if I don't know, then the proof's there, we need to go look for it. So if you open the Quran and you open Surah Yusuf, Allah says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم, وَقَالَ يَا بَنِيَّ لَا تَدْخُلُوا مِنْ بَابٍ وَاحِدٍ وَادْخُلُوا مِنْ أَبْوَابٍ مُتَفَرِّقَةٍ. When Yaqub alayhi salam was sending his sons to Egypt, Misr, because of the poverty they were going through, the drought, he said, when you enter Egypt, don't go through one door, but enter through different doors. That's what the verse means. Now, if we look at the commentary, unanimously commentators have agreed that Yusuf alayhi salam and his brothers were very handsome. MashaAllah. They were very beautiful. Yeah, we commonly hear about Yusuf alayhi salam, but we don't commonly hear, it's not often mentioned, that even his brothers were also beautiful. Maybe Yusuf alayhi salam was the most handsome. Yeah, his Jamal, his beauty was something else. But the brothers, 11 brothers, were also very handsome. Yaqub alayhi salam had this fear and doubt that if you all go together, people are going to look at you and say, MashaAllah, this is a nice family, and they might put evil eye on you. So the commentators of the Quran, the tafsir, right under this verse, this is proof of evil eye. The next verse is وَإِن يَكَادُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا لَيُزْلِقُونَكَ بِأَبْصَارِهِمْ لَمَّا سَمِعُوا الذِّكْرَ وَيَقُولُونَ إِنَّهُ لَمَجْنُونَ وَمَا هُوَ إِلَّا ذِكْرٌ لِلْعَالَمِينَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that it's very near that the time will come when the disbelievers will cast evil glances on you. لَيُزْلِقُونَكَ بِأَبْصَارِهِمْ, will cast evil glances on you. لَمَّا سَمِعُوا الذِّكْرَ, when they hear, dhikr here means Quran, وَيَقُولُونَ إِنَّهُ لَمَجْنُونَ, and they will say, he's a madman. So here, لَيُزْلِقُونَكَ means to throw glances, to cast glances. But the commentators, Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu and Mujahid rahmatullah, commentate on this verse again, that this is also proof of evil eye. So these two verses from the Quran prove that evil eye exists. What it does, what it entails, inshallah I will explain in a minute. Just very quickly, a few hadith of the Prophet ﷺ which also mention the evil eye. The first is Al-Aynu Haqqun wa Naha Anil Washan. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, and from the Prophet ﷺ mentioned in Ibn Kathir that the Prophet ﷺ said evil eye is real, it's true, and he forbade from doing tattoos on your body. Aisha radiallahu anha mentions that the Prophet ﷺ, and this hadith is in Bukhari, Ista'eedu billahi min al-ayn fa inna al-ayna haqqun. Seek refuge in Allah from evil eye. Seek refuge in Allah from evil eye, because the evil eye is real, it's true. I'm going to stop for a second. This is Aisha radiallahu anha narrating the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ said this, yeah? Who did he say this to? Who did he say it to? Did he say it to you and I? Who did the Prophet ﷺ mention this hadith to? Nobody? As in he didn't mention it to anybody? The Sahaba. Who were the men around the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam? It wasn't you and I. It was the Sahaba. What do we know about the Sahaba's iman? Anybody? MashaAllah, go on. Very strong. Young lad at the back, MashaAllah. Very strong. It was very strong, it was very high. Akmalun nasi imanan. The Sahaba were people not just very strong, they completed and perfected their iman. They were sawam, they were qawwam, regular fasters, regular with qiyamul layl and tahajjud. They weren't like you and I, sleeping, dozing off. These people had the highest of iman, radiyallahu anhum wa radu an, a certificate to Jannah, that they are pleased with Allah and Allah is pleased with them. But the Prophet ﷺ still mentioned, Ista'eedu billahi min al-ayn. Seek refuge in Allah from evil eye. Why? The Sahaba didn't read enough Quran. The Sahaba didn't do the adhkar. The Sahaba were perfected already in iman. Why am I saying this? Is for those brothers who deny evil eye, or they say it can never affect me. Why can it never affect me? Because I do my adhkar, I do Quran, I pray salah, the sister says I wear hijab, I go to the masjid. Who are these people? Who did the Prophet ﷺ tell it to? The Sahaba. And he still said, seek Allah's assistance, refuge from evil eye, because the eye is true. So this is a point for those people who like to debate. and say it's not true and it doesn't exist and you just believe in it and it's all in your head. The Sahaba were told. Meaning evil eye, even that golden era of Islam existed. People had jealousy, or people didn't say MashaAllah, Tabarakallah when they saw the blessings of Allah. The next hadith is the one we hear quite common and also needs a bit of explanation. In the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, العين حق ولو كان شيء سابق القدر سبقه العين وإذا استغسلتم فاغسلوا. Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu mentions that the Prophet ﷺ said, evil eye is real, it's true. وَلَوْ كَانَ شَيْءٌ سَبَقَ الْقَدْرِ سَبَقَهُ الْعَيْنِ. If something were to overtake predestination, taqdeer, Allah's qadr, then evil eye would overtake it. Okay, this hadith needs a bit of understanding. So the Prophet ﷺ saying that Allah's taqdeer is there as we know it. Everything's written 50,000 years before the creation of the earth and the heavens. But taqdeer is written, but there are certain things that can overtake it. So the Prophet ﷺ is mentioning that if there was something that was to overtake taqdeer, then it would be. So we can say that evil eye is number 2. Because taqdeer is what's written. So when you were born, taqdeer is written. When you're going to die, when you're going to get married, how many children you're going to have, how much money you're going to earn, what you're going to eat today. Everything's written, and that's taqdeer. If there were to be something that would override that, it would be taqdeer. But there isn't. There isn't, yeah? So don't think that there's something over taqdeer, if there were to be. So what we can say is evil eye is number 2. Taqdeer is there, that whatever's written in taqdeer will take place, nobody can change that. After that, evil eye has an effect, which still means that evil eye can take place quite heavily and quite deeply, and have a lot of effect on a person. The next hadith will explain a bit more. أكثر من يموت من أمتي بعد كتاب الله وقضائه وقدره بالأنفس يعني بالعين. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned in a hadith that the majority of my ummah, after, the word is kitabullah, which is normally used for Quran, but here it means qadr, after taqdeer. So the majority of people who will die after taqdeer and Allah's qada, Allah's predestination and taqdeer, is through evil eye. So does that make sense? That a lot of people will die because taqdeer overtook them, their time was written. But after that, the majority of people who will die will be because of evil eye. And this is why some scholars mention that if you were to go to a graveyard and it's mentioned 1/3, half, we won't say majority because taqdeer is the majority. 1/3 or half of these people died from evil eye, it will be true. Yeah, understand that very carefully. And I'll explain, when we explain what evil eye can do and the symptoms, I'll explain how that works. That doesn't mean that I cast evil eye on Brother Asif and then he gets run over by a bus after today's program. We'll explain that in a minute. And the last hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, Al-aynu tudkhilu rajul al-qabra wa tudkhilu al-jamal al-qidra. Evil eye can send a man to the grave and can enter a camel into the pot, which basically means evil eye can kill you. Yeah? Evil eye, tudkhilu rajul al-qabr, enters a man into his grave. It can kill you and can enter a camel into the pot, which also means that he'll be sacrificed and cooked. So, the reason I brought these hadiths forward is in our community, in Asian society, majority of people take evil eye very lightly. Even many of you coming to today's program will have come with this intention that Maulana is going to talk about black magic and hocus pocus and all this voodoo stuff, and it's going to be exciting and we're going to see flying things. Evil eye is boring. Evil eye is boring. Let kids get evil eye. Yeah? हमारे माशरे में यही कहते हैं ना कि छोटे बच्चे को होता है नजर, छोटे बच्चे को होता है, लेकिन बड़े मर्द और बड़े औरत को भी होता है. And this hadith proves it. These hadiths prove it, that evil eye can kill you. If after Allah's taqdeer anything were to kill somebody, it would be evil eye. There's many people lying in their graves because evil eye overtook them. So we need to take evil eye very seriously, just like we take other illnesses seriously. Yeah? Somebody gets diabetes, somebody has blood pressure, somebody has cholesterol, somebody gets cancer or AIDS or any other illnesses. How seriously do they take it? Yeah? Very seriously. But nobody takes evil eye seriously, especially when it's compared to black magic. Black magic is the killer. Black magic is the deadly one. Black magic khatarnak hai. Black magic will come in its place, and the reason I've put it first in the topics is to give it that preference. Why? Evil eye is more prevalent. Evil eye is more widespread. It's more common. Yeah? I'll give you an example. You go to a wedding and somebody dresses up nicely. More common in the sisters that we look at somebody's hair, somebody's hijab, somebody how they're dressed, and people say, she looks stunning, she looks like this, he looks handsome, he looks good in that suit, in that jubbah, his beard looks nice. But you rarely hear people say, MashaAllah, Barakallah. Did you know that's the only thing that will save a person from evil eye? That's all it is. There's no lamba chora wazifa. There's no long Quran ayats. There's no sipari after sipari you have to read. MashaAllah, Barakallah. Done. Protected. But the majority of us don't. And if we do, sometimes we do it on our own. On our own children. Yeah? Husband does it for the wife does it for the husband. But when we see a nice car, we don't say MashaAllah, Barakallah. When we see nice food. Yeah? And one of the biggest reasons why evil eye has become so prevalent is because of social media, MashaAllah. Social media. 10-15 years ago, you brothers, sisters went on holiday, nobody would know. Yeah, people didn't take that many pictures. Nowadays, you know, and sometimes the person's own parents don't even know he's on holiday. His own neighbors don't know, but you know because you follow him on Facebook or Snapchat. Yeah, Snapchat's like a part-time job. People updating every half an hour, 1 hour. You sometimes wonder, what do these people do for a daytime job? It keeps people so busy, but it also wrecks their lives. It destroys them. It's destruction. Yeah? And I'm saying this because many people come and say to me, you know, you guys always talk about evil eye, jinn, jadoo. 10-15 years ago, we didn't hear about it. 10-15 years ago, if I wanted Brother Zakir's photo, I could never get it. Yeah? He may have it printed in a family album, but it'd be hard to get his photo. Now I want his photo, Google gives it me. And that's the same with a lot of us. We upload everything. Cake, burger, tea, coffee, biscuits, everything. And it is the sisters more. Yeah, let's be fair. It is the sisters more. But I'll also say it's the brothers that deny it more. More brothers deny these topics. Yeah? So we need to be very careful what we're uploading. Everybody that likes your photos and comments isn't your friend. Many people then cast evil glances on you, and even worse, hasad, which I'm going to explain in a minute which one's worse, because we've all heard of evil eye and then we've heard of hasad. Two different things, similar, roots are the same, but hasad is actually worse than evil eye. Proof, like I said to you, everything needs proof. Surah Falaq, the second to last surah in the Quran. What's the last verse of Surah Falaq? وَمِن شَرِّ حَاسِدٍ إِذَا حَسَدٍ. Yeah? These two surahs, Falaq and Nas, are known as Mawwadatain. They were the treatment, the cure for the Prophet's Sihr, which we'll come on to. So in the second one, Surah Falaq, the last verse is وَمِن شَرِّ حَاسِدٍ إِذَا حَسَدٍ. You are seeking protection from the envier when he envies, or the jealous person. Yeah? Allah didn't seek protection here from the one who casts evil eye. Yeah, understand this. Why? Because evil eye, like I mentioned, anybody can do it. People who know you, don't know you, you put your pictures on Facebook, on Instagram, on your WhatsApp status, everything you put up. There's hundreds and thousands, Muslims, non-Muslims, Jinn, even Jinn can cast evil eye. Thought I'd mention that as well. Everybody's looking. So out of 1,000 people or 100 people, even one's going to cast evil eye, isn't he? But not one's not going to say MashaAllah, Tabarakallah. And from that, that's enough to cause you evil eye. But these people sometimes don't have bad intentions. Whereas hasad, what you're seeking refuge from in Surah Falaq, this person has it in for you. This person is a hater. This person is at random. This is personal. And hasad is more deadly. Hasad, the translation in the Arabic language means tamanna zawalu ni'matil ghayr. To have hope or a desire that Allah takes another's blessings away from him. Yeah? So brother sitting here has a nice car, I'm jealous, I hope he has a car crash. Brother sitting here has a nice house, I live in a flat, I hope his house gets burnt. Brother sitting here has a lot of money, I'm on minimum wage, I hope he becomes bankrupt. It's as simple as that. Did it say you do anything? Did it say fa'l or amal in Arabic means action? It didn't say that, it said tamanna. And all of you who know Urdu will even know tamanna means the same as Arabic. Yeah? A wish, a desire. Sirf tamanna karna. कि काश के ये मर जाए, काश उसका बिजनेस हलाक हो जाए, काश उस मियाँ बीवी का तलाक हो जाए. That's hasad. That same sentence is what hasad is. Now we'll move on to a common question. What people ask is, can my own family put evil eye on me? What do we think? Hasan al-Basri rahmatullah alayhi was also asked this question about, can your family put it on you and can it kill you? Can evil eye kill? Yeah, हमारे माशरे में के छोटे बच्चे को होता है, सिर्फ छोटे बच्चे को होता है. Hasan al-Basri rahmatullah alayhi told that person that look at the story of Yusuf alayhi salam when his brothers said, "Uqtulu Yusuf أو اطرحوه أرضا يخل لكم وجه أبيكم وتكونوا من بعده قوما صالحين." Kill Yusuf. When they were jealous, what were they? Jealous. Because Yusuf, حَبُّ إِلَيْنَا مِنَّا وَنَحْنُ عُصْبَةٌ, is more beloved to our father than we are. So the plan was, اقتلوا Yusuf. Not get rid of him, put him in a far land. اقتلوا. Kill him. Then others suggested that throw him away in a far land, and your father's pleasure will be only for you. One thing I'd like to mention here is something Sheikh Khalid Hibshi of Saudi Arabia, who's famous in this field. He's come to England many times, and alhamdulillah I had the opportunity to attend his courses. He used to mention under this that, you know, this story of Yusuf alayhi salam and the jealousy of his brothers was despite not knowing the dream. Yeah, the dream, إذ قال يوسف لأبيه يا أبت إني رأيت أحد عشر كوكبا والشمس والقمر رأيتهم لي ساجدين. Yusuf alayhi salam said to his father, "O beloved father, Abba, إني رأيت أحد عشر كوكبا, I see 11 stars, the sun and the moon bowing down to me. والشمس والقمر رأيتهم لي ساجدين." Yeah? And Yaqub alayhi salam was a prophet, so he knew this was a glad tiding, a basharat. So he said, لا تقصص رؤياك على إخوتك فيكيدوا لك كيدا. Do not tell this dream to your brothers, otherwise they will plan against you. فيكيدوا لك كيدا. Why are they going to plan against you? Because Shaitan will play his tricks. إن الشيطان للإنسان عدو مبين. They'll already have a bit of hasad and enmity, and Shaitan will fuel the situation. So did Yusuf alayhi salam tell his brothers? No. And what did they still plan to do? Kill him, despite not knowing the dream. So Shaykh Khalid Hibshi mentions, imagine they knew the dream. Imagine they knew what Allah's held for him, the position, the rank. But he didn't know. The brothers didn't know. So, the point is that evil eye is deadly, it's dangerous, we need to take it seriously. The Sahaba, the best of people with the highest of Iman, were told to seek refuge in Allah from evil eye. Now we've got to look into the symptoms of evil eye and when it occurs. And before I start, I'd just like to make it very frank that when I mention these symptoms, sometimes I've told people who ask me, who ring me, and sometimes people laugh at me. Yeah? That to say, oh, you get a headache and it's a sign of evil eye. Everybody gets headaches. My wife's got migraines for 7 years, he'll say. What are you talking about? There's a fine line in what's medically wrong, and there's a fine line in what's caused by Nazar and evil eye. Let me make that very clear, because some of the symptoms I'm going to mention, some of you will say, what's he talking about? that's just a medical issue. That's just mental health. Because in the whole topic of these things, I believe there's two extremes. There's those that believe everything is Nazar and Jadoo. So spilt milk becomes Nazar and Jadoo. Spilt milk is Jadoo. Or there's nothing that exists called Jinn, Jadoo and Nazar. The two extremes. Very few people have the balance in trying to understand what's Jadoo, what's a coincidence, and what's a health issue. So sometimes a person can get ill, and sometimes they go for scans, they go to the hospitals for MRI scans, for CT scans, everything's clear. But clearly this person isn't well. This person isn't well. So then I would advise that you look into other things. Is that fair? Do people find that fair yet? Before I say the symptoms, I just want to mention that so everybody understands that, you know, when you try ilaj after ilaj, dawai after dawai, Hindustan, Pakistan, you go into the best hospitals, but you're not getting cured, then what we're going to say, this guy's a lost case. This guy's a mental case. He's just weird. Astaghfirullah. Because Allah has said for every cure there is an illness. Whether I know it, you know it, we might not know it. But there is a cure. Allah has said that in hadith. Every illness He has sent down, there is a cure. It's mine and your job to find it. It's our job to find it. So just because we don't know something doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Yeah? Because sometimes, and I'm going to target the ulama here, which isn't done very often, but it needs to be, the people who make most mockery of this issue are the ulama. And I'm not talking about hearsay, I'm talking about experience. People go to them with issues, Jinn, Jadoo issues, Nazar issues. And Maulana Sahib, Imam Sahib is not experienced. I'm not experienced in everything, you're not experienced in everything, neither are you. If you don't know something, yeah? Brother Zaid's a mechanic, I don't know about cars. Someone came to me with a car issue, I'd send them to him. Simple, isn't it? Someone came to me with a fatwa, he'd send them to me. It's common sense. But not every Maulvi knows everything. So many times ulama and imams take mick and make a mockery out of a brother or a sister who has a jinn inside him or her, or has nazar and can't get better, and they just say, pray charcoal. Charcoal is there. Don't think I deny the charcoal or Ayatul Kursi or Manzil. But sometimes you need more. Yeah? Sometimes you need more than that. So we shouldn't always talk about topics which we don't know about. And back to what I keep saying, you need proof. I'm saying that because there are people very close to here that people have gone to them with Jinn, Jadoo issues. Allah knows best what they've prayed on them, and they've clarified them, cleared them, that there's nothing wrong with you. But then these people have gone to experts in the field and professionals, and they said, brother, you got jinn in you, brother, you got black magic on you, because they know what they're talking about. But when they went to Imam Sahib for year after year after year, they just gave them charcoal. Charcoal is there. But let me explain charcoal. The answer of charcoal is very common. The focals. If a person has a headache, he can take a paracetamol. Person has a cold, he can take Lemsip. He has a flu. Person has cancer, you're going to give him Lemsip. You're going to give him paracetamol. Person has TB. Yeah? What are you going to give him? There are certain issues which can be dealt at home remedies, and there are certain issues where you need to go to an expert. Cancer, you need to go to an expert. When a person has Jinn, Jadoo issues and you don't know, even ulama and imams don't know, send them to the expert. Don't try and be a Mr. Know-it-all and say to them, kuch nahi hai. And then they have problems after problems after problems for years because Maulana Sahib gave the fatwa ke kuch nahi hai. It's a rule, isn't it, in life? If you don't know what you're talking about, zip it. It's simple. And when it comes to Quran and Hadith especially, we need to stay quiet when we don't know what we're talking about. Because many imams and ulama have done that. When I come on to the topic of the ilaj and the cure and the treatment, yeah, it's very common for ulama to say, don't go to anybody. Don't go to anybody. For Ruqyah or for Taweez or for whatever your purpose is. Just do it yourself. DIY. If your wife needed an operation, would you DIY it then? If your wife had cancer, would you DIY it then? Yeah? If you had a heart attack, your husband had a heart attack, would you DIY it? What are these Maulvis talking about? They don't know what they're talking about. That's part of the purpose of this talk, to even set the record with ulama and imams who don't know every topic. There's no Maulvi that knows everything. Nobody knows every masla, every hadith, to the extent I can even say even the Sahaba didn't know everything. Not every one of them was Hafiz al-Quran. Some knew a verse, some knew a surah. Some weren't in touch with the Prophet ﷺ as regular. That's why some Sahaba narrated more hadith, some less. So not even the Sahaba knew everything. So who's Ajka Maulvi saying that don't go to anybody? And even if he wants to say that, give me the proof. Because we'll give the proof, which shows that sometimes you do need to go to somebody. So, with regards to evil eye, the symptoms I'll mention very quickly, there's quite a lot. One can be a person feels very tired throughout the day, so they're getting ample sleep, 7, 8, 9 hours, but they're always tired. Or they're always yawning, but they don't want to sleep. Another symptom is constant burping, but they don't eat, or they don't eat as much. They eat very less, but they're constant burping. Hot and cold flushes for no reason, tight chest pains, insomnia, waswasa, constant waswasa. We all get waswasa. Shaitan is with all of us. Yeah, I mentioned Inna Shaitan al-Insan aduwwun mubin. But constant waswasa. Prayed Asr now, did I pray 3 or 4? Did I have intention for Zuhr or for Asr? Did I break my wudu? Constant waswasa. Again, fine line. Yeah? Why am I doing the fine line? Because everybody's going to say, well, we all get waswasa. Are you saying we all got evil eye? No. There's a fine line. And a brother who's always getting waswasa, who spends 15 minutes doing wudu because he's repeating it, who spends 1 hour in ghusl because he's repeating, did I miss my neck out? Did I miss my foot out? Repeat. Waswasa is also a sign of evil eye. Putting on weight without necessarily eating more, headaches, which I mentioned again. A lot of people will get headaches and migraines. Could be after work, could be teaching, could be wife, kids, etc. But then we need to look at regular headaches, and we'll look at the time. Yeah, I'll just give a little hint. Sometimes it's Asr and Maghrib, very common. Some people it's after Fajr, some people it's Jummah, the whole Jummah day. 6 days are fine, only Jummah. So then I'd say that's not a normal headache. How can that be just medical? Why did not get a headache on Sunday, on Monday? Hair loss, darkening under the eyes, becoming pale, permanent headaches. All the time you're getting a headache. Seeing ants and insects in the house. Again, every house has ants and insects, but in multitudes. A whole army of ants. And then all of a sudden a trail of them coming out of nowhere. Babies constantly crying, not drinking milk, not having food, and becoming pale. These are just some symptoms of evil eye, which I thought I'd explain, because like I said, some people will come here with hope and aspirations that we'll know, do we have evil eye, do we not have it? These are just a few things. This is no diagnosis. I'm not curing anybody. I'm just mentioning, if you feel you have some of these issues or a lot of these issues, then it's something you might want to look into. One final thing I forgot, which is important. Evil eye, the word has eye in it. So people think sirf nazar se hota hai, dekhne se. Or I need to be here, so I can only do evil eye right now on you guys. I can't see who's outside the masjid, I can't see who's at my house or who's in the next masjid. Wrong. Evil eye doesn't always happen in front of somebody, in the presence of somebody. Evil eye can happen, like I mentioned, on social media, on Facebook. Insan se bhi lagta hai aur jinnat se bhi lagta hai. Even a jinn. How many cases have we seen of sisters who put their pictures on Facebook and a jinn fell in love with them and then they got affected? Yeah? Evil eye can also be done by tasting. So I've come to your house, you've given me a cake or a biscuit. I said, that's a nice cake. Who made that? No, mashallah, barakallah, Nazar. I've come to your house, I've smelled biryani, and I said, that's nice biryani. No, mashallah, barakallah, Nazar done. Hearing. So meaning a lot of the senses, Nazar can be done. Somebody reads Qiraat, somebody does a nasheed or a nazm. Nice voice he's got, hasn't he? No, mashallah, barakallah, Nazar done. So that's the final point on evil eye. Moving on to black magic and jadoo. In Arabic, the word black magic is known as Sihr. Yeah, many of you will have heard, mostly in the story of Musa alayhi salam, you'll hear the word Sihr. Sahir is a magician, the one who does black magic, or magic. There's magic and there's black magic. And then a sahira would be a female, a witch, if you'd like to call her that. Sihr is of two types, takhyili and hakiki. Takhyili is imaginative, so how can I say it? It's not real as such, you're just imagining it. Khayal mein hai. And the story of that is Musa alayhi salam, when the magicians threw their staffs, what did they become? Snakes. But they didn't really become their snakes. It was just in their imaginations, and the people had jadoo on them. Takhyili jadoo. Yeah, takhayyalu ilayhi min sihrihim annaha tas'a. That's the proof in the Quran of this type of jadoo exists. So it didn't just exist in Musa alayhi salam times, it happens to me and you as well. You could do jadoo on a person, so he sees his wife ugly. He sees his wife as a witch. He sees his wife in a different form, hence he's not attractive. That's just an example. The number two is hakiki, which is in reality. Now, about this reality, many people think jadoo sirf miyan biwi ke darmiyan hota hai, between husband and wife. Whereas that's wrong. One of the types of sihr jadoo mentioned in the Quran is husband and wife. It's a very common one. The verse ma yufarriquna bihi bayna al-mar'i wa zawji. That the people in Babylon used to learn how to separate husband and wife. So that does exist, which we'll come on to later inshallah. But I'd like to mention, for those who think that's the only type of jadoo, jadoo also affects fertility. It stops a woman from getting pregnant, or if she becomes pregnant, constant miscarriages. It also affects employment. People can't get a job. It affects people's financial statuses. People can't get married. It affects their sleep, insomnia. It even causes illnesses. With the illnesses, before anybody misunderstands, I'd like to mention that illnesses do exist. Mental health even exists. Yeah, that was on the poster. So we'll mention there are certain issues that are purely medical. Yeah, person doesn't eat well, has a can of pop every day, has a bottle of pop every day, fizzy drinks, he'll get diabetes. Yeah, he eats junk food, he doesn't eat healthy, he'll get cholesterol and blood pressure, and he'll get liver disease and heart disease. These diseases exist. But what is the role of black magic in them? If a person, let's say person A, is a junk food eater, so he's going to get high blood pressure and cholesterol, even diabetes. But he's going to get it probably when he's 40. This guy's only 25 now. Then somebody does jadoo on him. So his illnesses come a lot sooner. They come at 30. Why? Because jadoo plays its part. It's a contributing factor to the illnesses. When we say black magic causes illnesses, does not mean you don't need to go to the doctor. You do need to seek medical help. But jadoo also plays a part in people becoming junoon, mental, blood coming out from different places. It can cause you to kill a person. You get very angry. Husband and wife example, father and son example, somebody wants to separate them. So the son's always angry, in a rage. And again, anger happens to every man, happens to women as well. So you got to differentiate. That is this anger a bit too much? Anger on petty things, small things, anger every day, several times a day. Clearly that's not normal. And sometimes in the major illnesses such as AIDS and cancer, it can also play a part. But, like I said, it's not every case. Not every case we say is jadoo. It can even cause people to sin. Fornication, adultery, zina, gambling, alcohol. Because what jadoo, one of its purposes is to take you away from Islam, decrease your iman. So how many times have we seen brothers and sisters affected with jadoo? They were hijabi or a niqab and they took it off, took the hijab off, changed their attire and clothing. Brothers stopped coming to the masjid, shaved his beard off, can't even pray one salah, can't even pray at home, can't even pray Quran, just about plays Jummah. So jadoo took a part. Again, we're not saying all these brothers and sisters who don't come masjid and listen to bayans and wear hijab, they're all affected by jadoo. No. I'm just mentioning it can happen. And again, we look at, if you know a brother who was practicing, good brother, good to his wife and kids, and all of a sudden he changed, look, why? I'm not saying it's jadoo, but look why. Why? What happened to him? Could be bad company. So these are matters which we can't see. Yeah? Jinn, Jadoo is a world which we cannot see, and this is why it's very confusing. And I mentioned at the start, this is why there's a lot of grey areas, because we just don't know what exactly is Jadoo and what's not. So that's black magic. There is something which is called white magic. It's called white magic. Anybody heard of it? No. It's sometimes magicians, people who do sihr, they try and play it down a bit. Try and neutralize it, that it's not that bad. White magic's okay. It's a good thing. You know, brother can't get married, I did white magic for him. Sister can't have kids, I did white magic for her. Brother can't get a job, I did white magic. And then they say our white magic breaks the black magic. It's all nonsense, bakwas. It's all the same thing. It's haram, it's shirk, it uses shaitan. And that's why I really want to say there's no such thing as white magic. But people try and use this. If you ever hear somebody saying that, oh, you're having arguments with your husband is very angry, come with me and I'll do white magic, same thing. Don't go. So, with black magic, the proof, again, more than evil eye, more people deny black magic. And the most strongest evidence which can have for the existence of black magic is what, please? Who do we know that had sihr and nobody can deny? Sadiq al-Amin, who we believe every word he said is the truth. Nobody can deny this, that the Prophet ﷺ had black magic performed upon him. One thing about the Prophet ﷺ's sihr, which I'll mention, is did you know the Prophet ﷺ had sihr for 6 months, half a year, and he did not know. He was praying salah, wahi was coming down, he was going to his wives, he was continuing his normal activities, probably even doing jihad. But he did not know that he had, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, had black magic. Maybe that's a lesson for us. That when I tell brother X or brother Y or sister Z that you've got black magic, and she says, well, I've had these problems for 25 years, or he says, I've never gone on with my wife since I got married. Black magic could have been since then. My point is, sometimes people have black magic and they don't know. Proof is, the Prophet ﷺ had it, and he didn't know. It was done by a man called Labid bin Asim. What religion he was is not really clarified. Some people say he was a munafiq, some people say Christian and Jew. He took hair from the comb of the Prophet ﷺ and a date skin from a tree, and the sihr was put in the well. And like I said, for 6 months the Prophet ﷺ, one of the symptoms was he kept on thinking he needed to do ghusl, and there were other symptoms as well, but one of them was that I feel I need to do ghusl, and he wouldn't know sometimes which wife he had to go to because each wife had a turn. The hadith is in Bukhari. It's a long hadith. Don't want to go through the whole hadith, but this is just proof that sihr exists. It happened to the Prophet ﷺ. Many of the Sahaba may have had it on them as well. So, for those who deny it, that's the first proof. In recent times, we know of many ulama, senior ulama, who have had sihr upon them. We know many of the Salafi Salihin, the pious predecessors. One is the Imam, the teacher of Imam Bukhari, rahmatullah alayh, Yahya ibn Ma'in, who says, whenever I would enter my house, I would recite Ayatul Kursi 5 times, because he would feel something. Let me stop here and mention a point here. There's no hadith which mentions that when you enter your house, recite Ayatul Kursi 5 times. Is there? Anybody know any? Yeah? There might be, I've not heard of it. There's no hadith that I know of. So then why did the teacher, not the student of Imam Bukhari, the teacher of Imam Bukhari, read Ayatul Kursi 5 times when he entered his house? Now Ayatul Kursi is proven, isn't it? To protect you. Yeah, Ayatul Kursi itself is proven. Like the focals are proven, many of the surahs and ayahs are proven. My point here is, sometimes a sheikh or Maulana might give you a prescription which says do this 11 times, 13 times, 21 times after Fajr. And then we go in orthodox mode and say, it's not in hadith. Yeah? Not everything is in hadith. The basis fundamental of Ayatul Kursi is in hadith. Yeah? So because he felt something when he entered his house, he prayed it when he entered his house. If you feel it when you enter the masjid, you pray it when you enter the masjid. I might feel it when I'm leaving the masjid, so I pray Ayatul Kursi when I'm leaving the masjid. Is that okay? So he says he would pray 5 times until he would hear a voice say, enough, that's enough. Which is probably the jinn's voice, that you're hurting me, and he would stop. One narration actually mentions 50 times. And that's every time he recited 50 times. Abu Sulaiman Darani Rahmatullah alayh says he would stand up in the night prayer, tahajjud, and Shaitan would come to him in a form of a snake. Jinn, Shaitan. And sometimes it would come up my thobe to disturb him. So the same thing we can say nowadays, that Jinn and Shaitan do take forms of animals. Sometimes snakes, dogs, cats, and other animals. Not the black cat superstition thing though. Any color cat. I'll mention that before people get confused. Now with the symptoms, again, there's a fine line, is what's medical and what's purely sihr, and what's a bit of both. It can be medical and it can be jadoo, sihr taking its part. First and foremost is a person feels distant from his wife, or the wife feels distant from her husband, they no longer have a relationship, feeling extreme hatred towards the spouse. You got married, you've had children, 5 years, 10 years, you didn't have major arguments, all of a sudden you're having feuds. Or, for those who are not married, obstacles or blocks in marriage, employment. Sometimes a person finds his garments, his clothes, and there's a hole in them. There's holes been cut out. That's a sign of sihr. Clothes that have been missing and then found again. I'll explain that in a minute about missing, not just clothes, any items that go missing and come back, about Shaitan and Jinn stealing. The hadith is coming next. Pins and needles poked in furniture, walls, your carpet, under the carpet, because pins and needles are used for jadoo. Constant headaches and feeling pain in the stomach. Constant divorce. Divorce, remarry, different women 5, 6, 7 times. Again, it's not normal. Repeated miscarriages. Feeling sick or constantly vomiting. And what I mentioned earlier, the practicing brother and sister who all of a sudden refuses to touch the Quran, listen to adhan, go to the masjid, wear hijab. Wanting to cry all the time, anger and rage for small petty reasons with sibling, family, parents. Finding certain objects outside the house, front yard, backyard, cats, parts of a cat, head of a cat mutilated, sometimes birds. And the final one, broken eggs, eggshells, lemon, milk, masala, people find in the house. Sometimes nails and screws in the backyard, front yard as well. And I just mentioned, this is just for understanding purposes, when we say jadoo, black magic, with each black magic there'll be jinn behind it. Yeah? I can't mention the whole jinn topic now because one, it wasn't mentioned on the poster, and number 2, we won't have time. So jinn, inshallah, if and when there is a part 2, we'll mention more about jinn then. But just a slight point that a person can have black magic upon him, jadoo, but he can also have jinn attached to him, in and around him, in his house, as part of that jadoo. And like I said, it's a deep field. I don't want to explain too much to confuse people, but sometimes they're securing that jadoo. So if there's jadoo in your house, in your cellar, your attic, your backyard, they're literally protecting it to make sure you don't get rid of it. And when you do get rid of it, they go back to the magician, the Shaitan, and said, you know what, this guy's doing ilaj, we need reinforcement. Yeah? So why am I saying this? It's because when we use the word jinn, which I'll explain in part 2 inshallah, it means possession, mas, yeah, in Arabic. It's not always mas. Yeah, there is a thing called possession, which is inside you, happens to males and females. There's black magic usually behind it as well. Sometimes you can be in the wrong place, wrong time, park, toilet, etc. And the jinn comes inside you. That's very rare. It's most commonly black magic. But it doesn't mean that a person has black magic and there's no jinn involvement. 90% there is. And why I'm saying that is then you find the things missing in your house. You hear footsteps, you hear running. So like upstairs in the masjid, let's say there's nobody there, all of a sudden we hear running. There's no kids there. So in your house, if you hear knocking, because I mentioned the symptoms, I'll mention that alongside. And now we'll come on to the hadith of Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, proof that Shaitan and Jinn steal. Because for some of you, it might sound a bit far-fetched. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu narrates that the Prophet ﷺ put him in charge of the Sadaqatul Fitr in the month of Ramadan. So one night, a man, he was in uniform, came to him, and Abu Hurairah saw him stealing, from the Sadaqatul Fitr. So Abu Hurairah said, "Who are you?" So he said, my family is poor and I have a need and I need this. So he said, "Okay, fine, go." The next morning after Fajr, the Prophet ﷺ meets Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu and says, "Oh Abu Hurairah, what happened to your captive last night?" So Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu says that, "Oh Ya Rasulullah, he said he was poor and his family had a need, so I let him go." The Prophet ﷺ said he will return. The second night, the captive returns and he's stealing again. And Abu Hurairah says, "You're here again. Last night I gave you enough." So he said, "Wallahi, this time I'm going to take something. My family is in need, desperate. I will not come again." Abu Hurairah says, "Fine, go." In the morning, the Prophet ﷺ says, "Abu Hurairah, what happened to your captive?" Abu Hurairah says, he came again, but he promised this time that he won't come again. Third night, Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu sees him for the third time. And this time the guy knows he's had it. So he says, look. Let me take this and I'm going to teach you something which will protect you and your family for the whole night. But just let me take this." So Abu Hurairah says, "Fine, go on." And then he taught him. Did you know the hadith? What did he teach him? الله لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم لا تأخذه سنة ولا نوم له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض من ذا الذي يشفع عنده إلا بإذنه يعلم ما بين أيديهم وما خلفهم ولا يحيطون بشيء من علمه إلا بما شاء وسع كرسي السماوات والأرض ولا يعود حفظهما وهو العلي العظيم." And the man fled. So he meets the Prophet ﷺ after Fajr in the morning, and the Prophet ﷺ says, "What happened to your captive?" And he said, "This time he taught me something." I said, "If I pray once before sleeping, it will protect me and my family till the morning." So Rasulullah ﷺ said, "He is a liar, but he has spoken the truth." He is a liar, but he has spoken the truth. And that was none other than Shaitan himself. So from this, the ulama deduce that Shaitan steals. He stole, didn't he? He stole from the Muslim Sadaqatul Fitr. So we also prove that Jinn, if they are in your house, out your house, coming at night, or parts of the day, or a certain time, they will steal your mobile, your charger, your belongings, your personal things, things that are valuable to you, women's jewelry, clothing sometimes, things that you need. And obviously, logically, common sense, we will say, he stole it. You stole it. Your wife stole it. Brother blames the sister. Sister blames the brother, because that's what's logical. And Shaitan causes a big fire in the house. And that's his job. So that's in case anybody thinks, why does Shaitan need to steal? He doesn't. Sometimes they put it back as well. In weird and wonderful places. Where you'd never expect it. Like you'd find money in probably your bathroom. Hopefully nobody keeps money in their bathroom. But that mentions that Shaitan steals. Now we come on to something which might excite some of you of interesting topic. How is black magic done? Yeah, how exactly do you do black magic? And I thought I'd mention this because this topic then entails a lot of things which are used. What exactly is black magic and not? So Maghrib time's coming and you see a lady or a man dressed in black with black eyeliner, mascara, and she's got like blood all over her hands. She's going in the back alley and there's three of them in a circle. Is that jadoo? Or is that something else? So, first and foremost, we need to understand with black magic, for somebody to do black magic on you, it's not like what I mentioned about evil eye. It's not what I mentioned, evil eye, that it's random. Somebody in the supermarket, wedding, funeral, event, function can do it. And that's why I said it's more common and prevalent. Yeah, evil eye. Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal rahmatullah alayhi says, a time will come when there will not be a single house which isn't affected by evil eye. Meaning every house there will be one person. So, with black magic it's more targeted. It's more targeted. It's more for a reason, and you can't just do it randomly by chanting a few things. You have to go to a magician or a witch, you have to pay somebody, and it'll be a good amount of money, hundreds of pounds, thousands. And I'll also mention, we used to think in previous times, to Hindustan, Pakistan mein hota hai. Yeah, it's an India-Pakistan thing. It may have been 15, 20 years ago. Now we have our own homegrown British magicians. Where's the proof? Where's the proof? It was in one of the tabloid papers a few weeks ago. 70,000 British women declare themselves as sorcerers. You can Google it after the program, inshallah. 70,000 British women, yeah, let's just say the non-Muslims, declare themselves as sorcerers, witchcraft, whatever they want to call it. It's the same thing, all eggs of the same basket. What about the men that do it? Yeah, it's not just a woman thing. There's many men that perform it. 80,000, 90,000. What about the Muslims that do it? It's not just a Hindu, Christian, Sikh thing, devil worshippers, Freemason things. There are Muslims that do it, which we'll discuss later whether they're still Muslim or not, but their names are Muslim, they even have a beard. They even wear hijab. Yeah, but they've been caught red-handed, and some admit it. In case you're asking where's my proof, some admit it. Some have no sharam, because when you've bowed down to Shaitan, he is your Lord now. And they'll tell you, I do it, and I do it openly, I'll do it for you as well if you want. Give me £500. So if we were to add the Muslims, 100,000 more. So it's not an India-Pakistan thing anymore. You can buy it. You can even buy it online. They teach you courses now, how to do black magic. Not that I know the websites, but they do it. So black magic is an agreement which Shaitan makes with the magicians. So try and understand. I'll explain very quickly. Shaitan's at the top, yeah? Iblis, our enemy. To understand this, why it happens and why people do it, his end goal is what? What Shaitan want from us? Money, clothes, jewelry, husband and wife divorce, business is falling apart, kids going from home. What does Shaitan want from us? What did he say when he didn't prostrate to Adam alayhi salam?
For us to go to hell.
For us to go to hell, mashallah, Muhammad Said. Well done. He's my student, I'll take credit for that. So, for us to go to hell, yeah? That's his end goal. When you've understood that, then you'll understand black magic and the stages. So, Shaitan's at the top, and there's many ways where he sends people to hell. He'll stop you from praying namaz, he'll make you an alcoholic, he'll make you a druggie, he'll separate you from your wife, he'll take you from the masjid. All that's there. And black magic is one way, but it's a quick ticket to Jahannam. And I'll explain how. So Shaitan's at the top, he has magicians, many, and witches, the female ones. These people, who are they? When I say magician and witch, what do you imagine in your head? Harry Potter.
Flying witch.
What do you, flying witches, yeah, flying witches with a pointed nose and the pointed hats and the cauldrons and magic potions, yeah? No, brothers. The magicians don't always wear horns and don't dress in black clothes. Many times magicians, even if the Hindu, Christian, Sikh, will have ordinary clothes, ordinary people. They might be working in your office. That's just scary. And the Muslim ones, like I said, will have beards. The women will wear hijab, even niqab maybe, and do other things as Muslims. They might even go for Hajj and Umrah. All of this is a deception, because if they did wear horns, yeah, I'm sat here today, 2 horns, red, and I've got that. What does he hold, the Shaitan? Yeah. If I had that, yeah, you'd think this guy's a magician. He's here to talk about black magic. It's too obvious. They need to keep the face in society. They need to keep their reputation. So don't think magicians are sat there in India, Pakistan, or wherever they may be, in Cornwall, whatever, with these obvious signs. So these magicians are amongst us. Yeah, I'm not going to deny that. If you need to be told, you need to be told, to be aware, to be alert, and how they dress. They have a contract with Shaitan. Shaitan has said, you do these things for me. Now what are these things? Sometimes it's using Quran. Like magic with Quran. Quran is Allah's word. They misuse the Quran. They apply urine and stool and dirty feces and put it in sewers and blood. Yeah, that's one. They sometimes step on the Quran. So they make the magician do it, who may at one point have been a Muslim, just to use the most Muslim example, easier to understand. Yeah? So say, get your Quran and do this. And there's videos you can watch on YouTube. There's one on the account of the Merciful Servant. If you type in Black Magic Exposed, it's only about 10 minutes. Many of you sitting here have watched it. It shows when in Saudi Arabia, when they capture a magician, they don't kill him. They get info out of him. Tell us where the black magic is and what it is. So to understand it, you know those grey areas, like I said, which are only hadith. So then we learn from experience. So the video shows it that they've gone to a sewer, 25 Qurans, 51 Qurans, little Qurans this big, in the sewer. Yeah, the magician will say, go to this grave of whoever. And they've gone at night and they found nappy, menstrual cycle blood, urine, eggs. These sort of stuff are used. Yeah, this is just to explain how it's done. So this person now has committed kufr. Yeah? If he was a Muslim, they've committed kufr. And they're out of the fold of Islam because they are now listening to Shaitan. Shaitan is their Lord. All of these things are kufr and take you out of the fold of Islam because you're listening to Shaitan. Other things which are used are birds and generally animals which are sacrificed on Shaitan's name. One point I'll mention here, without scaring anyone too much, is, you know how all this works? Like I mentioned, the pyramid, Shaitan at the top, and then the magicians. And then we have your Muslim layman, let's call him Muslim layman, who goes to these magicians. Sometimes they go with good intentions. I'm telling you how black magic works. Where does it start from? So they've gone and they've said, oh, मेरा बच्चा जो है ना सुनता ही नहीं मेरा नमाज ही नहीं पढ़ता थोड़ा तावीज़ दे दो थोड़ा ये दे दो थोड़ा ये अमल कर दो. And in there will be black magic and verses of shirk, Qarun, Fir'aun, Haman, Iblis, which if you look on Instagram there's full exposure. There's somebody on Facebook called Taweez Project who regularly puts these taweezes on which have these words. Yeah? So, like I said, the intentions start good. मेरा बच्चा नमाज नहीं पढ़ता, मेरी बीवी मेरे नहीं सुनती, मेरा शौहर हमेशा गुस्सा करता है. Yeah? Angry husband, disobedient wife. They start with good intentions. They didn't want to do black magic, did they? No. How does it start? Why has it become so rife and widespread in the Asian Muslim community? It's because then this magician is clever. What's his deal with Shaitan? Shaitan wants kafirs. Yeah? And Muhammad Sayyid said, send them to Jahannam. He wants that. The magician has become kafir. His job is money. £500, £1,000. And the Muslim layman, what does he or she want? कि शोहर मेरा सुने, गुस्सा न करे, बीवी मेरी इताअत फरमा बरदार हो, बच्चे नमाज पढ़े. बच्चे नमाज पढ़े, they're getting taweez for that. So they know these lot don't have sinister intentions, but everybody's benefiting, right or wrong? Everybody. Shaitan seeing more and more people become kafir, magicians getting a whole lot of money, and she or he sees their spouse becoming obedient temporarily. Black magic does have an effect temporarily, but the Quran says, وَلَا يُفْلِحُ السَّاحِرُ حَيْثُ أَتَى, that a magician can never ever mukammal be successful. Understand that. For those who have suffered, who are suffering, who have been through it, the magician can never ever be successful forever. He has temporary fayda. 6 mahine, 1 saal, miyan biwi ko alag karta hai. If you get the ilaj then, you go to the right people and the right places, then you'll get it. So, this is in short how black magic works. And when they're doing these acts, what I mentioned earlier, that if you see women or men dressed in black at Maghrib time or night time in the graveyard, should we have doubts on them? What they do, they sit in a circle. What I mean is circle, not circle of people. So I've sat cross-legged here and there's a circle around me. Could be pebbles, stones, candles, whatever. They might sit in a cave or a shrine, they'll have a few candles. These candles represent something. It's not random. They bought a set of 12 from Tesco, no. 3 candles, 11 candles, 99 candles, it represents something. Then they tend to wear red clothes because the Prophet ﷺ forbade men from wearing red clothes. And then they chant what Christians and Jews might calling the demons, what we see sometimes in the movies. This is exactly what they do. And they're calling the Shaitan. I forgot to mention, in that time as well, they will probably be sat in their own urine, their own napa. So all these dirty acts they make them do. So it's not easy becoming a magician. You have to do a lot of dangerous things. And like I said, they'll use verses of the Quran, lemons sometimes they use. And the point I was going to mention was about the sacrifice. They also sacrifice animals on Shaitan's name. Yeah? So when we do dhabah, dhabiha, we sacrifice in the name of Allah. So what they do, and the reason I'm saying this is if you go to somebody who, like I said, might seem like Maulana Sahib, Pir Sahib, whoever, and says, I'll make your husband and wife come back together. Your husband and wife will be back together in no time. They say to you, you need to sacrifice an animal on a certain place at a certain time. You need to question them. Why? Because they sacrifice animals on Shaitan's name. Yeah? This is the point I was going to mention, which I said it might be quite scary for some people, but the bigger the sacrifice, the more Shaitan does for you. So you sacrifice a pigeon, chicken, little sacrifice. You sacrifice a sheep or a camel, more sacrifice. A bit like Qurban, isn't it? And then you sacrifice a human being. Shaitan will do such that to you. And from human beings, not an adult, you sacrifice a baby. Shaitan will do anything he wants. Why? The bargain. The kufr. He wants to make people kafir. And more people that come to him, he's making them do acts of kufr, which are sending you to Jahannam. So Shaitan, Allah has given him certain capabilities and powers where he can do certain things. Obviously, he's not Allah. That's why I kept on repeating at the top. Wallahu ala kulli shay'in qadir. Allah is in control. Shaitan has the ability to do certain things, but he can't do everything. But this is in short how it works. That the greater the sacrifice, then the more Shaitan will do for him. And this is briefly of how the magic works. And it really is a contract between the Muslim and the magician. I'll give you money, you do this for me. Magician and Shaitan. And the cure, which we'll move on to inshallah, for black magic, there's many different cures out there. And before I move on to this, if any brothers have any questions, if you just pass them to the front. That's fine. The sisters have any brothers? Just so I know how much time to leave before Maghrib for Q&A. Inshallah, this is the final topic, so then we'll do Q&A. Okay, that's fine. Okay, with regards to the cure, which everything I've mentioned, hopefully brothers and sisters understand, it's black and white, from the Quran and Hadith, majority of it makes sense. When it comes to the cure, there's all sorts of people out there. Magicians who say the cure, like I said, the white magic people, the charlatans, the fakes, the imposters. And if you live in Blackburn, I'm sure you've had at least one leaflet through your door. Some Babaji or Bukhariji who says, I'll read your palm and tell you how many kids you're going to have when you're going to get married, etc., etc. So, Allah knows best whether they're true and they're authentic and they're legitimate, but we can say nobody knows knowledge of the future. Nobody has knowledge of the unseen, so when somebody just writes that, then to me that's shirk in itself. So, one thing I'll explain again as a principle. We know in Islam, or we know in this country, living in Britain, there's different sects, there's different race, religion, different professional, different types of people. And no one group is perfect. Even the Muslims aren't perfect. Are we? Yeah, we 100%? No. No one group is perfect, and we're meant to have the deen which is haqq. Even we're not right. Yeah? Islam is perfect. Quran is perfect. Hadith is perfect. The Prophet ﷺ was perfect. But Muslims are not. When you've understood that principle, yeah, that Muslims can be dodgy, can be imposters, can be frauds, then I'll explain that in every professional field you also get people who are corrupt. Teachers are meant to teach our children, yeah? They go to school. Some teachers abuse our children, don't they? Yeah, doctors are meant to cure people and give shifa with the help of Allah. Do you know doctors that have killed people? I do. Police are meant to protect us and help us. Sometimes they abuse their authority and power. Right or wrong? I'm not even saying majority, even if one did it. Some did it, a few did it. Point being is, in every field you get corrupt people. That doesn't stop you and I from using these people. Anybody stop going to the doctors? Anybody stop ringing 999 when they need help? Anybody stop sending their kids to children because one or two teachers abused children? No? It would be foolish for you to do that. So, in this field also, I will agree and admit there are many people who are fraudsters, who are imposters, who are money makers. But that's my job and your job to make sure we're going to the right people. And Google will not help in this. Facebook might not even help, because a lot of them are sat on Facebook. Yeah, someone just sent me one last week. A guy who claims knowledge of the unseen. Young guy. So we need to look at who we're going to. Ask your imam. Ask a reliable Maulana Mufti that my wife, daughter has this issue, my son has this issue, my husband has this issue, please can you help me? Do you know somebody reliable? Because that is your job. Yeah? Everybody has common sense, hopefully. So, we need to take preventive measures and we need to be cautious that who are we going to. And also when you go to them, you've been recommended, you need to make sure this person is acting according to Quran and Hadith. If there's anything which you see, you don't like it, then question it. You have a right to question. Every Muslim has a right to question everybody. It's our God-given right. We live in England, the law gives us our rights. So there's no reason why you say, oh, you know, he did this to my wife, touched her in the wrong place, but I didn't question it. Well, why didn't you question it? That's your fault. You let him do that. So it's very important that we understand this. One of the methods of treatment is what is mentioned in Hadith. That Aisha radiallahu anha, she mentions, Amarana Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam an nastarqiya min al-ayn. Now the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us to seek ruqyah. To seek ruqyah from evil eye. And you can also use it for black magic as well. So, the second question comes to ta'weez. Ruqyah is proven in Hadith. Ta'weez, which is more commonly used, I think it's safe to say that more people go and incline towards that. Is it permissible? Is it impermissible? Is it what some of our orthodox Muslim brothers and sisters say, shirk? There is a hadith that the Prophet ﷺ said ta'weez is shirk. But what did I mention at the start? Hadith needs commentary. Hadith needs commentary. Why does it need commentary? Because you can't just copy and paste. Do you know the Prophet ﷺ told a group of companions to drink the urine of camel? Anybody up for it? It's a hadith. Authentic hadith. Who's up for it? Nobody. Black and white. You can't always take the hadith. There was a specific Sahaba who came out of Medina and they weren't well, so for a specific situation. It's not for everybody. There are times in hadith which mention the Prophet ﷺ stood up and urinated. From a small age we teach our kids, yeah, bait kar peshab karna. The Prophet ﷺ stood up, it's in the hadith. Do we stand up? No. Why? It's in the hadith. Again, it was for a specific time, specific place. Maybe he was in a wasteland, it was a dirty area, there was already napaki and things there, so the Prophet ﷺ stood up out of necessity. Hadith need interpretation, my brothers and sisters. Do not ever just copy and paste and think you are Imam Bukhari's father. So the hadith which mentions all ta'weez are shirk is talking about those ta'weez, amulets, which have the words of shirk on them, or have words of jahiliyyah on them, or have words which are not clear to the Muslim. So, in fairness, we will say, if somebody writes a Quran ayat, I put Ayatul Kursi on a piece of paper and I've given it to brother, are you going to say I'm doing shirk? Yeah? Even many of the Sahaba, their children had ta'weez. Yeah, it's proven. Not all the Sahaba were against ta'weez, some were. That's why I said fairly I'm mentioning it. And even some of the orthodox Muslims agree with that. Yeah, those who are the black and white, even they've mentioned it. That not all of the Sahaba were against it. So my friends on Facebook and Instagrammers who just say everybody wears a ta'weez is doing shirk, that means a lot of our Muslim brothers and sisters are doing shirk and you've just sent him to Jahannam. Because when I question these people and say, okay then, so brother Fulan's a mushrik, yeah? He's committed shirk, you're a mushrik, aren't you? You're going Jahannam. No, he's not mushrik though. But you just give the fatwa. They don't think before they speak. So it's very careful that we take a balanced approach in these things. I'll mention something which will, for those who believe that all ta'weez are shirk, anybody sitting here, brothers or sisters, or listening at home online, do you know there's a hadith which says Ruqyah is shirk? Open Abu Dawud, open Musnad Ahmad. Ruqyah is shirk. All these guys who perform Ruqyah, they're all mushriks then, aren't they? Because I copied and pasted the hadith. I didn't look at the interpretation. What's it talking about? It's talking about the Ruqyah of Jahiliyyah before the Prophet's time. How people used to do Ruqyah calling upon Lat and Uzza and Hubul. And it's talking about incantations which contain shirky words. You have to look at the commentary. Otherwise, if all ta'weez is shirk, then all Raqis are mushriks as well. If you want to have that opinion. So, that's one thing mentioned. There's two routes. I'm not aware of a third route. Normally people take one of the two routes. Now, on the topic of Ruqyah, many people recommend self-Ruqyah. And it's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that he did tell the Sahaba, I'll tell you that seek Allah's refuge in evil eye. So part of that is doing self-Ruqyah on yourself. Now there's many imams, maulanas and many charities which are promoting this. Very good. Very good. But then also train the people. It's like me saying to a brother sitting here that you know when your wife gives labour, sit at home. This guy don't have a clue, and his wife don't have a clue what to do. Or somebody's got bypass operation, just do it at home, brother. I'll give you the kit. You're right, yeah? Do it at home. We'll do 24-hour course online. Monday, I'll do the operation. Right? It's the same with those who say do Ruqyah at home, but they don't teach the people. Why? I'll explain. Certain cases you can do Ruqyah yourself. Nazar, certain cases of Jadoo. Majority of Jinn cases, I wouldn't recommend it. And even some Jadoo cases. When you start reciting Surah Fatiha, Ayatul Kursi, Jalkur, and the other parts of Ruqyah, this person might start shaking, might get violent, might beat you up and your wife up. There are times where Ruqyah has led to killing. The patient killed the Ruqyah. It's happened in England. And that's why I'm not against these charities or maulanas that give self-Ruqyah. It's good. Yeah, you save your money. But then when you need professional help, you need to go. And that brings us on to the next part of why is it so expensive sometimes. It's a rip-off, isn't it? That's what we say. It's a rip-off. I'm not going. You've got to understand the field of Ruqyah, even those who do ta'weez, they're risking their own lives. Yeah, they're not like a dentist or optician, 9 to 5, they open, 5 o'clock shut and they go home right as rain. No. Many times it affects them, it affects their families, it affects a lot of things. Number one. Number two, they have to do their own azkar, daily recitation of Quran, and many things which we don't know. Number three, like I said, one of the reasons why there is a high charge, I'm not justifying, I'm explaining it. Why? In case you don't know, and you just think, well, this guy just read, I can read. So what? When you get backlash, when you start hearing noises at night and you can't sleep and there's problems in your house and car and your wife, then you come and say to me that it's just normal. So many of these people have to do a lot before they do their Ruqyah. And if they don't, they'll know they'll get affected. Hence why sometimes it might be £40, £50, etc. And many of these brothers and sisters have clinics which they need to pay rent for. I'm only explaining. If somebody still feels it's a rip-off, I'm not going to argue. That's up to you. So I've mentioned about the self-ruqyah, you can do it, but like I said, for certain cases, a bit like what I mentioned earlier about the flu and cold, etc. If you have flu and cold headache, you can treat it yourself. But if you have cancer and TB, you need to go to a professional. Now, finishing off, inshallah, before the Q&A, very quickly, is the hadith, which many people confuse. So like I said, there are certain people who say, don't go to anybody. You don't need nobody, just do it yourself. Yeah. The answer to that is the operation, the surgery. Become a surgeon, DIY online yourself. And if your wife's pregnant, just stay at home and do everything yourself when you don't know anything. There's also a hadith which mentions that 70,000 people will go to Jannah without accountability. Hisab kitab. 70,000 people, authentic hadith. And one of them is wala yastarqun. The quality is wala yastarqun. They don't seek ruqyah. They don't seek ruqyah. Again, I'm only mentioning this for information purposes, because if somebody is affected sitting here at home and they've heard this hadith, and one person actually argued with me about it, and I put them straight with the evidence I'm going to give you, is that you've not misunderstood the hadith, you've copied and pasted it. It's the meaning of the hadith. Simple, don't seek ruqyah. Because I want to be from the 70,000 that will not go to Jannah, will go to Jannah without hisab kitab, yeah? But that's a hadith. 70,000 people, and one quality they have is they don't seek ruqyah. What does it mean though? What does the hadith mean? Who are these people? The first is what I mentioned earlier. If you have 100% tawakkul on Allah, so my phone fell down, I told Brother Zakir to pick it up for me, yeah? That's not tawakkul. People who have 100% tawakkul do everything themselves. Why did I give this example of things falling down? The Sahaba had that. When they were riding and their whips fell down, they would not tell another brother to pick it up. Yeah? So if you have 100% tawakkul, then you don't do ruqyah. You have got tawakkul on Allah, you get shifa from Allah. Number two, it means the shirki ruqyah. The words that have shirk. Don't seek that ruqyah. Number three, before the actual matter even happens, you start panicking. You've not got Jinn, Jadoo, Nazar yet. Number four, they seek ruqyah upon the understanding of jahiliyyah, like I said before the time of the Prophet ﷺ, and you believe that the Raqi cures, or the Mulsa cures, and Sheikh cures, and Pir Sahib cures. You don't believe Allah cures. So like I said, there's a meaning of the hadith. There are 70,000 people who will go to Jannah without accountability, but if they seek ruqyah, it doesn't mean you've totally gone against that. Quickly with the cures, what should we do then if you want to do it alone? I would say seek advice, even if you're doing it alone, from an imam, somebody experienced. One is reading Quran itself. وَنُنَزِّلُ مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ مَا هُوَ شِفَاء. We reveal in the Quran which is healing for you. Manzil is very good. Ruqyah, like I mentioned. Sidr leaves, it's mentioned in Hadith. Hafiz ibn Hajar mentions it in Fathul Bari. Hijama, cupping. Those people who get cupping on the 17th, 19th, 21st of each month, Prophet ﷺ said, you'll get cure. Again, it doesn't mean do it once and all your problems go. It could mean regular. Ajwa, dates, you have 7 in the morning, no poison will affect you. Zamzam, when we drink Zamzam, anything you make dua for is guaranteed. Black seed oil, it's mentioned in Hadith that it's a cure from everything except death. Olive oil is mentioned in Quran as well. Sadaqah, there's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, cure your ill ones with sadaqah. This is a personal one. Hajj and Umrah, people who go for Hajj and Umrah sometimes get cured from Nazar, Jinn, Jadoo. A lot of these things I mentioned are costly. A brother said to me, come on, it's too much, 30, 40 pounds a month, 50 pounds a month. How much do cigarettes cost? How much do you spend when you go out for a meal with your family? Ladies, on makeup, on fashion and shoes, etc. We easily led by Shaitan in that. But when it comes to Ajwa, 30 pound a drum. Yeah? Oh, sorry, Zamzam, 30 pound a drum. Ajwa, 1 kilo, 20 pounds. These sort of things. So we have to understand that it's where you spend your money. We all have money, but we easily spend it in the takeaway. And then there's morning, evening du'as that help. Honey can also help, mentioned in the hadith. Make good use of the two cures, honey and Quran, and other things like mu'awwadat in Hizbul Azam. And generally, as a rule, thinking good of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, husn al-dhan, thinking good of Allah is, and willpower is also good, being positive. Some of the questions are very long. We'll try and do. Okay, what preventive measures can you do, for example, on a daily basis to protect yourself from evil eye and black magic? I mentioned that one. So that would be your morning, evening adhkar, your manzil, Hizbul Azam, these books, reading Quran, your Yasin in the morning, Surah Mulk, Surah Waqi', etc. We call this protection. The more protection you have, the less you will get affected. And that's another question in that, is that some people say, we do all this. So what's the point if I'm still going to get affected? It will affect you less. Yeah? Very quickly, I'll mention a Shaykh of mine, an Ustad, Shaykh Yunus Rahmatullah alayhi, just because it's in the open. I don't like to expose anybody, but it's in the books. Yeah, everybody knows he had sihr. Recent book I received of his, he mentioned that obviously Shaykh used to read hadith books day in, day out. Yeah, full night, hadith. When the sihr was done, and it was deadly from Bengali sihr. So he literally said you could have killed him. But one of the protection was because you read hadith day in, day out, you've been protected. So that's like, I'm saying, do good a'mal, give sadaqah, show akhlaq to people. If you're going to be rude and deceive people and your black magic goes to go, then no wonder. How do you know evil eye has been taking place? 1 minute life is good. I've already mentioned the symptoms. So one thing this person mentioned is about you go out for a walk shopping. I mentioned, look at incidents. You went for a wedding, you went out, you came home really ill. This is one thing Sheikh Khalid Hibshi mentions as well. When you get ill really bad, what happened before that? That could be Nazar. However, whoever does jadoo to someone, can Allah put it back on them? If we protect ourselves, does it go back? We should focus on protection more. Don't worry about who did it, where they did it, why they did it. Yeah? On that note, I will mention many people fall into the Taweez trap innocently. Many men, women as well. If you've done that and you're now a victim of this magician and he's constantly using you to make more people kafir, do tawbah. If you can't do tawbah, you're finding it hard, go to your imam and alim. SubhanAllah, if one person does tawbah who's doing black magic from this event, from hearing this, I say we're successful inshallah. Okay, about husband in denial, I've already mentioned it. A lot of men are in denial, I'll be honest with you. About that, what I'd say is take him to an imam or books if that helps, or lectures. If you know for certain he is possessed but he's in denial, sometimes, to be fair, the thing itself stops them. They're good understanding brothers and sisters, but because of the jinn jadoo on them, they won't come to masjid, they won't go for ruqyah, for ilaj. How do you protect yourself on a daily basis? Already done. What's effective treatment for repeated sihr? Okay, repeated sihr, good question, is I've heard in another form is we just don't get better. So much ilaj, spend hundreds of pounds, we don't get better. That's usually a sign is that the person is very close to you. Yeah? So usually for that I'd say avoid eating from anybody's houses, only eat your own food and avoid socializing too much and telling people things. Sometimes we bring it on our own selves. We tell people too much and then you get affected. How do you verify the credibility? Credibility of those who can help is they need to be practicing, they need to be shari'i, in shari'i clothes. So like if they're not praying salah, they only pray Jummah, they got clean shaven beard, you know, they're open fasik, I wouldn't go to them. Or they charge sky high rates. And generally the signs of iman should be on them. You should know when he's reading Quran, he's got nur on his face, these sorts of things. Same for sisters as well. If you know she's not dressed decently or she doesn't really practice, then I wouldn't go to them. Jealous family members, as being given a okay. Away from apparent comments. I was meant to mention this, I forgot, so I'll mention that is how do you get rid of jealousy? One is give gifts to each other. Yeah, the hadith says give gifts and you'll have muhabba between you. Give salam to each other. And if you know who the person is, then this was advice from a teacher of mine, be more courteous to them. Give them food, give them gifts, be nice to them so that hatred goes from their heart. Like I mentioned, give salam and stuff and try not to cut ties. That just escalates the situation. Is it sihr to seek help from the monarch for black magic? No, if he's doing it in a shari'i way, to get rid of the black magic or sihr, then it's not wrong. MashaAllah, very good topic, should be daily, something like this. You said you should not get rid of jinn from the house because he will go back to the magician. Did I say that? You shouldn't get rid of huh? Anybody remember that? I did not say you shouldn't get rid of jinn from the house. We'll go back to the magician to make him stronger. What can he do? I really don't understand that question. Anyone who works with jinn and gives a taweez with numbers. Okay, the taweez with numbers, avoid it. Like I said, I don't want to give out any big fatwas about shirk and bid'ah, but the taweez with numbers and grids, I don't know what it says, you don't know what it says, it might be shirk, jadoo in there, so avoid it. Taweez with Quran ayats, perfectly fine. How do you get rid of nazar? I pray manzil of such things. Yeah, you can pray manzil and morning Eid dua, still get affected. It'll affect you 30%, 40% because you got protection. So one thing mentioned in the hadith is if you know the person, you tell them to wash their body and then you pour that water over yourself. But it's next to impossible in this areas. They're not going to tell you. Second thing is doing the protection, azkar, what I mentioned, coupling, hijama, honey, and keep up with the azkar or do more. Effects of black magic, I've mentioned the symptoms. Anything to recommend? If someone is experiencing some of these symptoms, what should they do? Amal, I've already mentioned. What if a person affected does not believe something is wrong with them? Okay, denial again. So take them to a Maulana, take them to somebody who's understanding. If many people are affected by jad, who are the magicians and kind of people under the... What if you have been told that you're affected by Sihr, Hasad, but your partner does not believe? Common question, you see that? And they're all from the sisters, and like I mentioned, there's a lot of men in denial. Allah knows best, till today I don't know the answer why. More men deny it. What can be done? It's very hard, I'll be honest with you. What you can do is pray manzil, morning, evening, do dam on his water, food. Have the intention. That's another very important thing, is have intention to get rid of nazar jadoo. Many people, especially sisters, pray manzil, hizbul azam, but your intention is just robotic. It's just parrot fashion. Your intention is to get rid of nazar jadoo on yourself, husband. Blow on his food, blow on water. Hopefully he doesn't deny that and will drink it, eat it. How do you trust the Maulanas who take out jinn or nazar? It's the qualities I already mentioned. Obviously anything against Islam, you question it. Does evil eye or black magic affect non-Muslims? Yes, it does. Do non-Muslims suffer from this too? Yes, they do. And many even come for Ruqyah and for taweez. The last one was a long one, I'll try answering it. Mother was fine walking to the shop to do home shopping. All of a sudden went weak. Having anxiety, I was given that she may have stepped on some stone. Okay, so it's back to incidents. If you know a certain incident, you've stepped on something, or there's something dodgy outside your house, something you're not sure about, don't touch it. What I normally say is pray manzil, blow on water, spray it, and then get rid of it. And if money is going missing, like I said, Shaitan can steal it. Jinn. 1 minute inshallah, just one more inshallah. This is a common one that people ask about jinns living in trees and in and around trees. So if you're going to chop a tree down, you have to warn the jinn. It might sound silly, but if you don't and the jinn, that's his inhabitant there, then he's going to take revenge. Jinns take revenge. So you announce it that in 3 days, we'll chop this tree down, then second day 2 days, then 1 day, then you can chop a tree. Many people live in houses with trees, they don't announce it, then you wreck the jinn's house and jinn takes backlash and affects the house. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all the ability to take guidance from what's said. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from nazar, jadoo, and for those who are affected, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide them to an authentic source for treatment. Ameen. Subhanallah.
Quite quite valid.